Hello, welcome. Thank you for joining us on this edition of News 2, our Memorial Day special. Memorial Day observances were held today across the nation and across the territory in varying ways. Those who were lost to wars or died in the line of duty protecting their country's freedom were remembered. The first observance of Memorial Day was equally solemn and held a deep significance for those who attended. The first Memorial Day is said to have been held in South Carolina on May 1st, 1865. A group of newly freed African Americans buried more than 200 Union soldiers who had been cast into a mass grave by the Confederacy. More than 10,000 people attended a parade and ceremony on that day, an event covered by the New York Tribune and recognized as the first widely publicized observance of Memorial Day. On May 26, 1966, President Johnson signed a presidential proclamation naming a different place, Waterloo, New York, as the birthplace of Memorial Day. Until today, there are many claims of when and where Memorial Day began in America. But the spirit of the event, the remembrance of loved ones lost in war, remains the same. Now, Memorial Day is also celebrated in the Virgin Islands. Each year, residents of the territory come together in spirit or physically attend events slated across all three islands. One government official himself, a military veteran, reflects on the way Virgin Islanders remember friends and family that they lost while serving overseas. News 2's April Knight has that story.
Patrick Farrell remembers the time he served as a military man in the Middle East.
I have served in Operation Desert Shield, Desert Storm, and in Operation Iraqi Freedom in my tenure being in the military.
Which is why each year Memorial Day strikes a chord for the territory's new Veterans Affairs Director.
Memorial Day is always like a bittersweet moment because we have lost people that have paid the ultimate sacrifice. I have lost friends in combat. As a matter of fact, a couple of the names that are on the walls in the memorial parks on St. Thomas and St. Croix, I knew some of them personally.
Farrell now reflects on how Memorial Day is recognized in the territory and measures it against what seems to be the more locally popular military holiday, Veterans Day.
Veterans Day is normally a bigger turnout. On Memorial Day, which is in May, it's a smaller turnout simply because a lot of people use it as a weekend to get away and do activities with family. So it's not usually a large turnout.
But according to Farrell, it's very important for Virgin Islanders not to forget the significance of Memorial Day.
It's definitely important that we continue to recognize, and we will continue to recognize Memorial Day because of the people that we have lost, not only in the territory, but across the nation. It's a very significant event because of those that have paid the ultimate sacrifice.
Reporting for News 2, I'm April Knight.
Director Farrell thanks those who partook in Monday's Memorial Day activities held simultaneously, one on St. Thomas, St. Croix, and St. John, and stands in solidarity with those remembering the ones we lost. Now, those parades presented by the Office of Veterans Affairs, American Legion, Survivor Outreach Services, and the VA Vet Center, they all partnered to commemorate all veterans with activities that were held on all three islands. St. Croix held a graveside ceremony and seaside service. The official commemoration ceremony was held at the Vern Richards Veterans Memorial Park. On St. Thomas, there was a graveside and seaside ceremony, and it ended at the Franklin D. Roosevelt Veterans Park for official commemoration. On St. John, a graveside ceremony as well as two other short ceremonies and a motorcade were held, and the official commemoration in the Vigo E. Seward American Legion Post number 131 headquarters located in Coral Bay, and we will have highlights from the parade on Tuesday. Well, it's rare to find a military veteran who served before the Vietnam War. World War II veteran Neil Weiss looks back more than 70 years and can still clearly remember when his plane crash-landed in Germany, taking the lives of all but one of his fellow servicemen.
I got to the companionway, all I could see was fire. My top gunner, who was the chief engineer, was slumped over his gun, and the fire was roaring. I went back a foot or two in the companionway and opened the escape hatch. And I was sitting in the escape hatch when the plane blew up. I was holding on to my chute because I was ready to go out. All I remembered is this explosion. I pulled my chute, and the next thing I knew was I woke up on the ground. I thought I was dead because all I saw was blue sky.
Senator Kenneth Gittens also shared this memorial message.
We have thousands of Virgin Islanders who are heroes today because they made the choice to put on their uniform and defend the freedoms and liberties that we all enjoy today. But we have a smaller number of our soldiers who made the ultimate sacrifice when they lost their lives protecting the ideals that this great country stands for. They were ordinary people who answered the call in an extraordinary way and in extreme times. They rose to the call because they wanted to protect a nation which has given them and all of us so much to be thankful for. These fallen soldiers, who include those soldiers missing in action, possessed courage, pride, determination, dedication to duty, and integrity.
Changing the flags at the gravesite of veterans who've passed on is an honor for living servicemen past and current. For more than a decade, the local American Legion posts have been replacing the American flags in each cemetery. It's an honor to give the soldiers who gave their lives to serve the United States.
American Legion Post Commander Secundino Roman Cruz has worked with some of the veterans lying in Kings Hill Cemetery.
There are members that have worked with me in my previous job in public safety.
Kings Hill Cemetery is the resting place for more than 400 local soldiers who served and fought for the U.S.
We have several Barnes there who was the oldest Legionnaire. He was 101, I believe, when he died.
Every year, on the Saturday or Sunday before Memorial Day, members from the local American Legion posts replace all the flags on each veteran's grave in each cemetery.
We do that as an honor for us that made it through to come and remember those that gave it all. And we give them thanks and recognition for that, and to let them know, let the family know that even though they are gone, they are not forgotten. So it's an honor for me, to come here and do that.
For the last 3 years, the Tuskegee Airmen's Youth Aviation Club has joined the effort at Kings Hill, supporting Post 102.
And for the past 3 years, the Tuskegee Youth Group come, and they are a great help, because we used to spend hours here doing that, because first we remove the flags, the old flags, and then we place new ones.
For Cruz, whose friends lay at Kings Hill, it's an honor he will continue to bestow for as long as he's able. Erica Parsons, News 2.
On Friday, President Barack Obama saluted the service and sacrifices of America's military members, past and present, and proclaimed Memorial Day, May 25th, as a day of prayer for permanent peace. And he designated the hour beginning in each locality at 11 a.m. of that day as a time during which people may unite in prayer. He also asked all Americans to observe the national moment of remembrance beginning at 3 p.m. local time on Memorial Day. Coming up, much more on this Memorial Day special. We'll be right back. Navy and Vietnam veteran Raymond Harley takes Memorial Day very seriously. It's a time he uses to reflect on the sacrifices this country's soldiers made, especially the ones from the VI.
It's quiet for me during Memorial Day, and I remember my family who have served before me, like my dad. I have a big photo of him here. My dad, he served in the Army along with a whole bunch of others, Virgin Islanders, who served during the era of World War II. Memorial Day is a really heavy day for me as far as memories and honoring the people who served before me made it possible for me to serve, made it possible for us as a country of the United States to continue with our freedoms that we have available to us. It's an honor to have served my country, and I would do it again in a heartbeat, without question.
On February 16, 2014, Karen and Thomas Matthew of St. John learned of the accidental passing of their son, 22-year-old Magarby McCullum Matthew. Magarby was an enlisted soldier with the Navy stationed on the Nimitz in Washington State. He was a graduate of St. Peter and Paul. His body was returned home shortly thereafter. His rank was E5 in 3 years, something that usually takes 2 years to accomplish. Family members say Magarby was transporting several shipmates to their homes when the accident occurred. His father says Memorial Day holds special recognition for him.
We have precious memories of our dear son, Magarby. He was the most loving and caring son. Magarby was a young man full of promise with a bright future in the Navy. We should use this day to honor the many soldiers who have passed on.
Virgin Islands delegate to Congress, Stacey Plaskett, introduced legislation last week in the U.S. House of Representatives to encourage small business employers around the country to hire veterans who have served in the National Guard and Ready Reserve. Introducing the Hire a Hero Act is necessary, she says, in part because we owe a debt of gratitude to our veterans. She said too many of our returning veterans are having great difficulty transitioning from military service back to civilian life. Plaskett's Hire a Hero Act will amend the Internal Revenue Code to allow employers a work opportunity tax credit for hiring a member of the National Guard or Ready Reserve. The managing attorney of the Disability Rights Center of the Virgin Islands, Archie Jennings, explains why the experience some soldiers go through can be considered disabilities and why it's important for vets to utilize their services.
We have so many people who have gone off to war after Iraq or Iran, Afghanistan, and they may get, and unfortunately, when they were going over the war, traumatic brain injury was a major concern for Veterans Administration, and they announced it because of the type of weapons that the soldiers would be facing. And trauma and soft tissue trauma, the brain is very, very, that's why I say case and bone, is so fragile. The only thing you have to do, that's why shaking baby syndrome, I always point that out, parents, don't shake the baby, because the brain is hitting that skull and they don't know what kind of trauma they will give to the baby. But for soldiers, it was the same thing. They had helmets on, those bombs would go off and they would shake and the brain would hit the side. So they come back with traumatic brain injury, which is only some of it is very subtle and not detectable till a person's put in stress or things of that nature. There's a change of personality. It may affect one side of the body versus another. So it's not something that's so clearly detectable by the medical profession, and it's one of those things that they took a long time to give recognition to. And they didn't really give recognition to it until after 2006 that they had so many injured persons coming back.
The Office of Veterans Affairs is reaching out to veterans in the community through the relaunch of its radio show called Veterans Voice. The show, which airs every Tuesday at 7 p.m. on 107.9 The Vibe, will be hosted by the Veterans Affairs Director. Here's more.
We discuss veterans issues, we discuss veterans concerns, and we also give updates, because every day in the veterans community there are updates. So we try to bring updates to our veterans throughout the territory. For quite a long time, there have been a lot of cryouts for services that veterans in the Virgin Islands, in the territory, still need. The one thing that I do ask veterans to do is go into our community-based outpatient clinics, which there is one in St. Thomas in the Medical Foundation building, and there's one at Byron Spot in St. Croix.
Schneider Regional Medical Center recently received the Above and Beyond Award in recognition of its exemplary support of the National Guard and Reserve. employees during an employer awards and recognition dinner. It was held on May 16th. The award recognizes employers who have gone beyond the legal requirements of the Uniformed Services Employment and Reemployment Rights Act by providing their Guard and Reserve employees additional non-mandated benefits. Schneider Regional Medical Center's Chief Executive Officer, Dr. Bernard Wheatley, said he is grateful to those employees who serve both the Virgin Islands community and our country. He says we support them 100%. The Schneider Regional Medical Center was also named as a 2015 Secretary of Defense Employer Freedom Award semifinalist. The Virgin Islands Lottery is proud to announce the sale of their lottery ticket series number 851, drawing date on June 5th, 2015. With the assistance of the Virgin Islands Office of Veterans Affairs, 19 of our finest soldiers who paid the ultimate sacrifice to defend our freedom were selected to be memorialized. And these veterans are Sergeant Calvin Jackson, Antonio Smith, Alfonso Rogers Sr., Floyd E. Lake, Hugo L. Molinar Sr., Clarence Van Beverhout, Monique Glassford McCoy, David Canigata, Rodney Reimer, Louis Delano, Hughes John F. King, Leo Sibley Sr., Elmo David, Ralph Brathwaite, Liston Leonard, Arthur Andrew, Henry Scott, Derek M. Francis, and William Wilkins. Well, in honor of Memorial Day, the 3rd U.S. Infantry Regiment, also known as the Old Guard, has placed an American flag at each tombstone in Arlington National Cemetery. The tradition, called Flags In, has been done every year since the Old Guard was designated as the Army's official ceremonial unit in 1948. There are more than 228,000 grave markers in the cemetery, and it takes more than 1,000 soldiers about 4 hours to put in those flags. For Memorial Day, American Legion Post Commander Segundino Roman Cruz keeps his thoughts on the servicemen and women currently serving for the nation.
During the Vietnam era, which I served, I was lucky. I was sent to Germany instead of Vietnam, but I had friends, locals, that also went. Right now we do have service members serving out there, which we know, and we pray that they do come back. So we always have that hope that they do come back. Okay, most of them do, but there are a few that do give it all. Okay, so that's what I take for Memorial Day.
Great message. Be sure to stick around. Your News 2 AccuWeather forecast comes your way next.